we have this really fascinating scene in this film where Luke accuses Obi-Wan of outright lying to him about Darth Vader being his father, right? And Obi-Wan's response, I don't know, I think it's hilarious. And if you've ever seen Blue Harvest, the the Family Guy take on Star Wars, they actually just do a really funny musical number about this whole thing. It's worth a watch. I'm sure it's probably on YouTube. But this is the Obi-Wan's words are, "What I told you was true from a certain point of view. Luke, you're going to find that many of the truths we cling to depend greatly on our point of view." What do you think about that statement, Garrett?
I think that everybody's gonna have a different point of view. There's so many different worldviews out there. I think we get into trouble when you start assuming everyone has the same point of view as you do, and but at the same time, you shouldn't accuse other people of being stupid or anything like that just because they don't see the world like you do. Granted, in this scene, I kind of feel like Obi-Wan was just kind of like, yeah, well, according to my worldview, he's dead, so I didn't lie, because, like, I would never do that to you. But Luke just calls him out on it, just like, boy, you told me a lie. So I think that was kind of using an argument to back yourself up when you know you messed up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. I think that's funny too. I like that.
Yeah, it's every time I talk about this movie now, I almost feel like it's lending credence and making the prequels seem better. Which in my head I don't want to do, but when you go back and look at the prequels and you look at, Ewan McGregor's portrayal of Obi-Wan, you see arrogance, and you see him, not necessarily being wise. You see him trying to stay on top of Anakin and stuff like that. So if you carry that through, this kind of makes sense,
right?
Like Obi-Wan kind of is being arrogant here. But when we saw Jedi for the first time, we never would have thought that Obi-Wan was arrogant,
right?
We would have thought that he was just old and wise and shiny, right? But so, I mean, I get, from the one hand, I understand what he's saying, because there's so many intricacies to what's going on, and the light side and the dark side, and just, Vader is not just Vader. He was Anakin before, and it's not as simple as what you see on the surface.
Yeah.
But from a foundational perspective, for me in life, if truth depends on my point of view, I'm scared to death. Because my point of view is incredibly limited,
sure,
and completely biased based on my own experiences and my own emotions and ideas that I've come up with in my head.
Right.
And if that's all there is, then that's frightening. So to me, I feel like if you look at most worldviews, most religions, most faiths, anything that tries to make sense of what's going on around us, the majority of them will recognize some version of absolute truth.
Yes.
Wherever that comes from.
Right.
Even science, right?
Sure.
And so, I don't know, maybe not nihilism or stuff like that. I don't know. But
no, it would. I mean, if you go back and listen to the interview I did with Hannibal Taboo,
yeah,
he'll tell you his absolute truth, the only absolute truth, that's what he says on the podcast, is science. So yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah. So there's a recognition of a desire for absolute truth,
right,
beyond what we as individuals think.
Sure.
So, and I'm right in line with that. For me, my worldview, that absolute truth is in Christ. And so, and it's so comforting to me that truth is not based on me, that it's bigger than me, and I don't shoulder that responsibility. It's something that I can pursue. It's something that we pursue in this podcast.
Yeah.
It's something that is out there that is better than I am, that I can use to grow.
Are you telling me that I can't read Daryl's 10 steps to finding truth?
I'm telling you they don't exist.
Yeah. Yeah, I am in agreement with both of your statements, and I think honestly I really dislike the way that Obi-Wan says this, because his own statement is proven absolutely 100% wrong, because he tells Luke in that same exchange that Vader is more machine than man, and basically indicates that he'll never be redeemed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, so if he's seeing it from a different point of view, he's wrong, and that's not true. If you're wrong, it can't be true, right? It's interesting. A friend of ours, actually a mutual friend of Anthony Holdier's, who is one of the other hosts of the Story Cauldron podcast, one time posted on Facebook. His name is Sam Wellbaum. He's been a guest of our show. You've heard Sam talk before. Sam's like sort of like a genius level person. He said, he asked the question on Facebook. He said, is there a difference between absolute truth and objective truth? Which is only something you ask if you're a philosopher. Everyone else is sitting there going like, wait, what? Why is he asking this question? But I wanted to bring it up because my answer to him at the time occurred to me that it applies to Obi-Wan's reasoning here. And that is, like you're saying, Daryl, I do believe that most people believe in absolute truth.
Yeah.
But that truth is incredibly nuanced. What I see a lot of people doing is they take the nuance out of the truth altogether, right? So they'll say something like, well, this is true, therefore I can behave in these 10 ways. But the reality is that no, in every single situation, that truth is slightly different. You can say killing people is wrong, for example. Killing is bad. Okay, great. Is that different than when someone murders someone else versus someone killing in a war? Both those actions are not the same thing, right? So what should happen to people in either situation? Is killing is bad? Is it always true? Yeah, I think killing people is bad is probably always true. Is it necessary sometimes? Yeah, it's probably necessary sometimes. And so I think that what we find here is that we find that absolute truth, while it can have different perspectives, because obviously a soldier is going to have a very different perspective on killing than another human being might. So there's going to be different perspectives. In that way, I think Obi-Wan is correct. And what Garrett is saying is absolutely true. However, there has to be some sort of absolute truth for every single circumstance that we come across, because there has to be a best case scenario. Mm-hmm. Luke is basically saying, I believe the best case scenario is my dad gets redeemed.
Yeah.
Yoda and Obi-Wan are kind of saying, I mean, I don't know that that's the best truth. I think you should just kill him. Or if it is the best truth, we don't care. We should just kill him, right?
Well, it speaks to the pursuit of truth, too. It speaks to the motivation behind the pursuit.
Absolutely.
Because Luke wants to redeem his dad, and so saying he believes he's redeemable, but it's not just that Yoda and Obi-Wan don't think that's true. They're afraid of him.
Yes.
They're afraid of what he's become,
yep.
And they're afraid of what will happen to Luke if he knows who he is.
Exactly.
So it's not a pure pursuit of truth. It's a fear-informed pursuit of truth.
Yeah, which I think this gets us dangerously close in Obi-Wan's scenario to relative truth, which means to say that, like, I don't think that two things. Here's where you have to go with this, right? If absolute truth is very nuanced, then relative truth must be to a degree rejected. In other words, there can't be a scenario where you say killing is bad and I say, oh, no, killing is good. Mm-hmm. Because it's relatively true for me, Daryl, that my relative truth says that killing is okay. And you go, wait a minute, killing is bad. Well, I would say that is not a deal. Now, I think why we have these people that are out here in the world saying, like, well, no, your truth is your truth and my truth is my truth, so, like, let's just deal with that, is because they're not actually trying to find the absolute truth. behind the scenario. And I think that that's what Obi-Wan is getting into here. He's getting into like a relative truth. Well, let me just say everything's different from a different point of view, so there's relative truth here, and that's just what we're going to say. And I think that that's getting into really dangerous territory, because while I do believe that truth is so nuanced that we need to have really deep discussions about it, hence having this podcast, I don't believe that you can say that that relative truth is actually 100% a thing. So if anybody out there disagrees with that, feel free to write us an email and we will read it on the podcast. We will debate it in more depth. Like, love to have those kind of discussions. Life experiences will give you different perspectives on truth. As you get older, you'll realize, and I've done this myself, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, oh yeah, there's another angle to absolute truth in this kind of situation. But it doesn't mean the truth is relative. It just means that there's another angle that I hadn't considered because of my lack of experience in life.
Which is why it's so comforting to me that absolute truth is something bigger than me that I can pursue. Because there are so many different truths, like you're saying. So don't kill somebody might be one truth that it's like, okay, that's very easy to live by. But there's also the truth that there's war in the world, and there's danger in the world, and there's evil in the world. And when these truths start to butt up against each other and create tensions, we don't understand how to reconcile that. Right? And so that's why I'm saying, like, if it's dependent on my point of view, I'm screwed because I don't understand it.
Oh, exactly. Well, and then find a human being for me that can say, like, oh yeah, I believe that my truth is the best truth, and then can live up to their own standard of morality based on that truth. Find me that person. Unless they just say that everything is so relative that it doesn't matter what you do, then I'll find you a really big creep. So anyways, we don't have to keep going on. Any last thoughts on that? Garrett, do you have any last thoughts on that?
I don't know. I just tend to go with the theory of you do you, boo boo. But like, you do your thing, I'll do mine. So
would you ascribe to a more relative theory on truth?
I don't know. There's so many different things to think about, and I haven't really thought about it a lot. Because, like, I don't know, I live in my very little narrow point of view that I haven't really had to think about it too much before. But when it comes down to it, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just going to do what I think is best for me, and then you can do what you think is best for you. Like, I'm not someone to rock the boat. If that makes sense.
Well,
so I don't know. I still need to be around a little bit longer to form my own thoughts on that subject.
Got it.
As someone who's been around a little bit longer, it's always going to feel that way.
Well, I mean, that's...
Okay. I mean, it always feels like our point of view is so limited and so small compared to the greater world.
That's the truth. See what I did there?
But if Jay's blown up your brain, then that's good, because that's his whole goal with these podcasts is to blow people's brains up,
including my own. You don't know how many times I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought of this before. Storytelling is a very powerful tool.
This is how I feel after one of our podcast episodes too. I'm always like, oh, Anthony, Bobby, why are you doing this to me?